The rankings are out, and Islam Makhachev, after fighting Volkanovski twice, the first fight was marketed as the winner was going to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. After winning that one, he goes into the second fight with Volk and knocks him out in the first round. Spectacular finish. He's still not pound-for-pound #1. Islam is ranked #2. He only went up one spot, and he's still under Jon Jones. The only way this can make any sort of sense is if we look back on Jones's entire career. And I don't think we're doing that, right? Because start plugging in a lot of these legends that are still around. Because what did Jon Jones do in the last 3 years? He's had 2 wins in the last 3 years. He barely beat Dominic Reyes. Reyes should have definitely won that fight. And then he beat Ciryl Gane, which was a very good win coming up to the heavyweight division for the first time, which does define what pound for pound is about. But he beats Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane's a good fighter, very good striker, a guy who is one of the best heavyweights on the planet right now. But Ciryl Gane was not the champion. Ciryl Gane was not on the level of Volkanovski. Even though Volkanovski's coming up to the lightweight division, him and Islam reportedly weighed about the same in both fights. And do you know what's crazy about that? Yes, Jon Jones finished Ciryl Gane in the first round, but so did Islam knocking out Volk. People will start to bring up the fact that Volk did enter that fight on short notice. A training camp was not going to save Volkanovski from getting head kicked in the first round. And that's just talking about the Volk fights. Did we forget that Islam Makhachev also beat Charles Oliveira and submitted him? He knocked out one of the best strikers pound for pound in the world, knocked him out in the first round, and then submitted the greatest submission artist in UFC history. In the last 3 years, if we're looking back that much, Jones has 2 wins, Islam Makhachev has 7 wins. Every one of those wins was a finish except the first Volk fight. Jon Jones arguably lost to Dominic Reyes, and look where he's at now. And he beat Ciryl Gane in the last 3 years. We can go back the last 4 years. We can count Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos. Santos, another very tough fight for Jon Jones. That fight was not one-sided at all. And then he did beat Anthony Smith. But if we go back 4 years, now we're adding Davi Hamosh and Arman Saryukian on Islam's record. The only way you could look at this and put Jon Jones over Islam is if you look at their entire careers. That's the only way. But that is inconsistent with what the pound-for-pound rankings even look like right now. Because you would have other legends up there if you're looking at their entire legendary careers, right? Like, would you put in Cejudo? He was a double champ. He beat Demetrius Johnson. He beat Dominic Cruz. He defended both belts. Why isn't he in the top 15? You know what I'm saying? If we're looking at their entire careers, would you put in Dominic Cruz? Would you put in various other fighters that have been around for a long time? It sounds ridiculous because those guys should not be in the top 15 pound for pound. Jon Jones also should not be above Islam. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, like, I understand who Jon Jones is, right? Jon Jones, if you include PEDs, he is the greatest fighter of all time. But we have to look at what he's done recently. Ciryl Gane is a good win, but Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, he should have bulldozed those guys. And Reyes and Santos definitely gave him a very tough fight. Now compare that to Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira. I would have it Islam Makhachev is #1. He is the best fighter in the world right now, skillfully. I don't say a fighter not only on this roster, but an entire landscape of all MMA right now, better than Islam Makhachev. The only guy that may come somewhat close is Demetrius Johnson. It also feels cheapened because the first fight again with Islam and Volk was supposed to be for the #1 contender spot. Jones did take that with the win over Ciryl Gane. But then a second fight happens. How does that not go over Jones, right? How does that not trump over Jones' win over Ciryl Gane? I think the only reason why Jon Jones is at #1 is to promote his fight with Stipe and have Jon Jones retire as the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. And then once he retires, Islam will take his spot. Maybe I'm a little bit too passionate about this because the pound for pound rankings have always been somewhat wonky. There's always been disagreements about it. It's always been that subjective, but it is a fun discussion to have. The only thing that's frustrating about it is he fought Volk twice. It's very frustrating to have that narrative on that fight, #1 versus #2 pound for pound fighters, for the guy not to be the #1 pound for pound fighter because Jones took it from them. I could maybe understand Jones taking it from them after he beat Ciryl Gane. I could understand that. But now? He hasn't beaten Stipe yet. If he beats Stipe and does it impressively, now there can be a pretty good argument, but I can see also people trying to argue for Islam to be above Jones even if that happens because of how high everybody's holding Islam right now. I mean, heck, there are people that are even arguing for Volk to be above Jones right now, let alone Islam. We also hear about Khamzat Chimaev now. Khamzat was ranked. Yes, for the first time he's gotten his middleweight ranking, and he is surprisingly not in the top 5. Khamzat is number 9, just above Brennan Allen and Kelvin Gastelum. And he's getting a title shot as the number 9 ranked fighter over Dricus, who's number 2. Khamzat does bring in more eyes, right? He's the money fight. It would be a massive one between him and Sean Strickland, but through merit, it has to be Dricus. Khamzat scraped by a Kamaru Usman win that arguably could have been a draw. How is that better than Dricus taking down Robert Whittaker in the first round, winning it, and then TKOing him in the second round? He TKO'd one of the greatest middleweights of all time in his prime. Dricus also has another middleweight ranked win against Derek Brunson and finished him too. He also beat Darren Till, who I think was ranked at the time as well. Khamzat has one ranked win in the middleweight division against a guy who wasn't even a middleweight. Kamaru Usman is very good, there's nothing to take away from him, but that win is not as good compared to the Robert Whittaker win for Dricus. And then if you look at Khamzat's win over Gilbert Burns, he also kinda scraped past that win too. It was very, very close. Dricus has not had a close fight like that go to a decision. Dricus has finished his last 3 opponents who were ranked. Darren Till, Derek Brunson, Robert Whittaker. He finished all 3 of these guys. So in my opinion, it should be Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. I would like to see him fight maybe Robert Whittaker, but I also do like to see Usman fight Whittaker. That would be cool. I actually like Usman versus Whittaker better. The only thing that wouldn't make too much sense about that is that you'll be giving the loser a higher ranked opponent. You know, if Usman, who lost against Khamzat, goes and fights the number 3 contender, and then you have Khamzat fight the number 6, 5, or 4, like that doesn't make too much sense, you know? But stylistically, I love to see Usman fight Robert Whittaker. That would be a very fun fight between 2 legends. You could give Khamzat Marvin Vettori. Cannonier would have been the perfect fight for Khamzat going forward, but Cannonier is injured, so it looks like that fight's not going to be able to happen right now. Marvin Vettori is number 5. That is probably the best step up for Khamzat if he doesn't get like a Whittaker fight or something, you know? And if he wins that one, then you give him a title shot. That's what I think should happen here. And also, the way that Usman fight went down, it probably shows that Khamzat should need one more win for his sake too. Rushing him to a title fight after a performance like that is probably not the best move. That was a very, very close fight when on the odds, it wasn't supposed to be. And there's a lot of argument that if Usman had a training camp, if he sized up for middleweight, and especially if it was 5 rounds, I believe the odds go on Usman's side. I believe Usman would have a major chance of beating Khamzat if that fight was 5 rounds, and then add on if he was fully prepared for it and all that stuff. What's fair is Dricus fights for the belt and Khamzat fights Vettori, Costa, or Whittaker, or even Dolidze. I don't know, man. What would you guys do? Would you guys have Islam as number 1 pound for pound? Or would you keep Jon Jones there? Where's the argument with Volk versus Jones? Would you put Volk as number 2 or you keep Jones at number 2? And would you give a title shot to Khamzat Chimaev? Leave in the comments below and I'll see you guys in the next video.